Welcome back, and before going on to the break, obviously Shahzad was talking about and alluding to the career counselling and how it is very important, especially in the student's life, because I would like to pontificate on my journey and how I ventured into the mass communication. So Shahzad, I do remember when I was in my second year, there was no career guidance as such. Because we did have the internet, but we were not that much proficient while using it. So having said so, I do remember, so my dadi wanted me to become a doctor like most of the dadis are, because I was good in the studies, but I didn't have the pension for that. And my mom said that whatever you study, put your 100% in it and make sure that you give out the good results. It shouldn't be like that you are studying with your own liking, but then you're not also producing the results. So having said so, I talked to a friend of mine, and she said that I will choose mass communication because she was always into the literature, book reading, fiction, and she said that I look at the subjects and I found them really interesting. So I'll go and choose the mass communication. And then I asked 2-3 friends of mine, and they also said mass communication. So I also selected mass communication because I felt that it was a trending subject. So I wanted to venture into that. But when I went there, when I studied there, I'm really proud of my selection, because obviously it groomed me as a person and it taught me how to think about, not what to think about. And I feel that this is my greatest achievement as a student, as an individual, because it allowed me and opened the avenues of the critical thinking out there.
I mean, I believe that, thank you so much, for kind of quantificating on why you chose mass communication as well, because for us, it was very different. So imagine while I was in my college or university, sorry, in fact, I'm going to take you to my college days as well. I certainly never knew that, after college that you actually have to end up in a university, number one. And then eventually when I got done with college, I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? My father asked me one day, I was like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to do BA? I'm supposed to do something of that sort, because that's what, everybody has done before me. So he was like, no, aren't you going to look for university? I was like, okay, are we supposed to go to university? So that's how simple I was, and that's how ignorant I was that what's happening outside in this world as well. But having said that, just like you, because you were a great student, you might have scored 800 plus or probably 700 plus in matriculation. Then if you speak about FSC, might be somewhere around 600, 700, 800. What was your score?
Okay, so
if you don't mind me asking.
Okay, no, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it was good.
Yeah. So in metric, I scored 951 out of 1050, I guess. So.
Yeah.
And in FSC, I didn't score that much better because I was focusing on the NAS, but I had, I think, 881 out of 1100.
881 out of 1100.
Yeah.
Now let me share my score as well. So imagine that, she scored 951 in matriculation.
Right.
I think I had 610 then.
Out of?
I had a 1050, obviously.
Okay.
And then I think in first year and second year, I collectively had 800. So I did well in my college as well. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, imagine that, that just because I really thought that I wasn't a good student, and that's what my family told me, was like, what is the easiest thing to do in a university? They're like, BBA kar lo, yaar.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't really a choice. I was like, okay, BBA, chill, I'm going to do that. Okay. So imagine my first semester, and here I am, so out of 4, my GPA came out to be 3.67, and I was awarded a scholarship by university, and I was really very excited. I was like, what happened to me? All of a sudden, I'm such a great student. That was the time when I realized that it was the applied education system which I wanted for myself ever since childhood. I wasn't the one who could do the rata system and can reproduce whatever was written in the book. So my teachers always told me that whatever you're going to write, if it convinces us, you're going to get full marks. And ever since then, there was no looking back. Then for my masters, I think marketing majors, I did a wonderful job, and I wanted to market myself, and alhamdulillah, I've done it successfully. I'm thankful to Allah Almighty. But this is us getting lucky. There was nobody out there who told us that, okay, this is something you should do. Imagine even now when we went for BBA, Hajra, that was the time when people went for IT, when people went for software engineering, and those people have ended up in Silicon Valley. Those people have ended up in Apple, Google, and elsewhere, and they are my class fellows, and I'm very happy for them. But having said that, what should we do in these times, ladies and gentlemen? So it's our humble effort to make sure that we recognize what we certainly need to pick up on in terms of education and careers. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by a career counselor and educationist himself. He is Mr. Aamir Habib Khattak. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for revealing your marks.
Thank you so much. It's going to make it easier for you, but alhamdulillah, we're on our journey, and we thank Allah Almighty for every possible opportunity which came our way, alhamdulillah. But having said so, so we have seen information technology, software, artificial intelligence. these are the talks of the town these days as well. Do you think that it's going to give us a sound career? And when we speak about career counseling, what are the most important precedences we need to set?
Like the word career counseling is a very broader domain. Like whenever we are talking about the career counselor, the student is asked, go if there is someone professor or educationist in your family, you go to there, or if the person is in a good position, you just go to him and ask the questions like where I have to go and what is the scope of the specific subject. But the thing is that like being a clinical psychologist, I believe like first you have to do your personality assessment. Like if there will be proper defined personality, like every students could not be like you explained about your own example that you would not consider as a good kid, but mashallah good student, good student, but later on you like landed up having a scholarship in the BB. So likewise, if the personality trait of the students is fit in the business studies or the artificial intelligence or any other subjects according to his personality, then it would be much better to have to guide him accordingly. When the word scope is a very, like you can say, illusion. Right. There is no scope of any field in Pakistan or wherever you go in the world, because if you are not passionate about your field, you are not like perfect about your field in a way that you are learning, you are curious about it. But in Pakistan case, the Alhamdulillah Pakistani students are brilliant. Like wherever they are placed, they can secure any good grades and they can be successful in that. But they are not. Their well-being is always being damaged. Like doctor is doing something else. Like if we see our civil services things in 75 years, that's the dilemma that in every private sector, government sector, or wherever you see that the right person is not on the right job. As a result, we are still a developed country.
And right, what are some of the most important questions that you need to ask when you are choosing for your career or when you are choosing for your bachelor's? For example, like Shahzad and I mentioned, we didn't had a very comprehensive thought on that what we want to do. It was just, for me, it was just a bandwagon sort of a thing. Okay, a lot of people are doing that. By the way, I also thought about going to the BBA because it was also trending at that time. But then, you know, my friend said, no, it should be mass communication. So what are some of the most important questions that a student needs to ask itself? What, you know, what sort of field it wants to choose?
Before asking a question, I always put in questionnaire in front of a student, psychological questionnaire, where he gave me like 6 personality traits: social, realistic, conventional, enterprising, and investigative. So these are some personality traits. After defining these personality traits, I asked about his family occupation, like his father, because genetically occupation had an influence on a student's personality. Yeah.
My father was a banker. I never thought of becoming a banker.
So that's why BBA, you did a BBA. But again, there could be some diversity, but the subject was aligned to your father's decisions, profession. So this is how the genetically things are influenced in one personality.
Please go on.
And then I ask the student what he want to do, not and what he want know about that subject. Either he know about this subject. Like one of student came to me and he was like, earlier you talk about the artificial intelligence, stuff like that. So I asked him what you want to do. He was like, I want to do cyber security, and his cyber spellings were wrong. So like the subject you want to opt is according. Have you done any homework? Have you done any assessment? Like just you heard from someone in like randomly, if the student is listening us, so he will say, oh, the person was saying the artificial intelligence in trending, so he will go for that.
So a little background of whatever you want to do, you know, you need to put in your own research, at least know about the field, and then come to a career counselor and then talk about it, right?
Exactly. That's
so, you know, what do you take out of it when somebody came up to you and you were like, okay, what do you want to do? And they said cyber security and the spelling were wrong. What do you take of it? Do you think that, you know, it's the spellings which are the most important? Do you think it is the intent of the person to be in that firm? Because, you know, imagine that if they continue to learn, obviously, you know, I think there are bigger things than the spellings.
Definitely. Even in my case, I didn't know the spelling of psychology. I used to write PHY psychology. So later on, now it's my passion. So likewise, it happened. But the thing is that why you want to be a cyber security expert? Do you have... Like apart from Paisa, like the one of my students was like, their father is IT specialist, so whenever they have something, they hack each other IDs, change the passwords of. So if they have some such background, so if they have some insight of this thing, like how definitely a high school student, even not O levels or A level student, not that much mature to having the general idea.
Okay, you know, so now I'm going to change the way we're actually having this conversation. So imagine that, let's talk about majority of the people in Pakistan. Because over here in Pakistan, if you have to survive, unfortunately, in today's time, we certainly cannot fulfill our needs with the help of one job. So people over here are doing multiple jobs, at one time as well, not just that, multiple businesses are being carried away. If somebody comes up to me as of now and tells me that, they need, probably a consignment of cement, I'll make sure that, I arrange that cement for them and, have whatever I can earn on top of that. That's the kind of the market we are living in these days. We really need to be out there. We need to kind of make sure that we seize every opportunity which comes our way, whether we are expert in it or not. And then there will be that 2 or 5% of the people who certainly want all of that getting done, just because, alhamdulillah, they're very rich as well. Now, if we talk about this, how do you think that people can actually have a very well-informed, knowledgeable, team which can actually work with them? Because that's something which I realized eventually in my life, that, it can't only be me doing things for myself. So, if you want to grow, you need to have a team as well. So let's come over here where, we talk about the dynamics of the Pakistani market, where you can certainly, you should be open to each and everything which is coming your way. Do you think that's the idea?
Exactly. The thing is that you have to be, you have to know about all the interdisciplinary concepts.
True.
Like if you are BBA, so it's not necessary that you will know about only business. You should have some understanding of taxation, accounting, HRM, marketing. Exactly. So if you don't know about the, you know about the business, but you don't know about the digital marketing thing.
True.
So ultimately you will make a shop, but you will not have a customers.
Exactly.
So this is how, like, you give the example of cement. If you want a cement, so at least you should have an understanding that what's going on the market. You should be updated about the current affairs, social, economic status, what's going on the country, economic situations, especially the dollar rates. So how things are fluctuating, and you have to plan accordingly.
And there's a reason why I gave you example of cement. So the reason is that one of my uncle was actually working in a cement factory, and one day somebody came up to me. I was like, I'm going to get you the best rate. And that's something, because people nowadays, Haja, they do not even realize that there will always be value for trust.
Exactly.
So people who trust you is because of the reason that you've been delivering to them what they wanted from you, or, that value for money you've given to them. I think that's another dilemma over here, that people, they really want to hit a sixer once, and they certainly do not want sustainability over their life period or their lifespan as well, and they just forget, because the same customer is never going to come back. And I have seen in my life that, in any business cycle, if you give them that value which they want, if you give them what they wanted, they're going to come back to you every single time when they'll need anything.
And honesty can lead to a lot of higher places, because obviously people look out for the honest people. Having said so, I have noticed a trend in Pakistan, which is that there is a race of acquiring degrees, right? Everyone wants to acquire some degree, but I do remember when I went to Belgium and I was in conversation with the educationist, and she mentioned that it's not like that everyone will acquire a degree. We assess the students, especially in their FSC and whatever their high school is, and then we see that if they have the proclivity towards the research or degree, then we are going to recommend them, because it's a free education there. But if not, then we are going to recommend to a vocational training center where he could acquire a skill. And certainly, Shahzad, you can also, I think you can agree with me on the fact is that we are so short on the labor, especially when it comes to electricians or, the mechanic or something like that, because whenever you call them, you will find that they are even busier than you, because they never answer your call in the first place, right?
Yeah, that's
so what
true.
do you have to say on that?
Soft skills are all the key to success. Like I just give you an example of the BBA, like accounting and other field, but the digital media, digital marketing things are the soft skills which you have to develop, and ultimately before the degree end up, you will be in the position to start having earning. So these are the things which need to students have to understand, that he don't have to wait for the degree. But there is also another thing going on the social media, that there is no need of degree.
Yeah, the top 500 Fortune companies are not actually asking for degrees
because
anymore.
now it's being going to be a skill-based company hiring. Like the hiring process, they will degree will just make you eligible to some extent. But in general, the hiring thing will be, the final selection thing will be based on the soft skill. If you don't have the soft skills, and it could be anything, like even having a you talk about the cement factory things. So it's being said that your networking is your net worth.
True.
But if you have networking, you cannot be like being a social animal. You are like in a good position, so you have to be very like having red tapes around you. So it's difficult for your survival.
Exactly, and thank you very much for saying that, because with networking, a lot of people get issues. For example, that You know, I'm not going to share my example over here, but I have another example. So imagine what happens is that a lot of people, obviously, okay, you know, so let me talk about myself. You know, my expectations, I've always been mentioning now in recent times, alhamdulillah, I made sure that even though at times, you know, I think about, okay, yaar, main isko ye kaam keh deta hu. But then all of a sudden, alhamdulillah, there's this thought process which tells me that, okay, you know, ask from the Almighty only. Even if it's your shoelace, that's what our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us. But half of the time I've seen people rubbing themselves onto other people's faces just because of the fact that they want to get a job done. There might be a right way of networking, right? Where certainly nobody feels that, you know, that they're in a very embarrassing position, or probably, you know, they really need to makhanfy the other person. Sir, aapse to achha hi koi nahi hai, aap to shehzade hain. You know, things like that. You know, because as soon as flattery comes out of your mouth, the other person is able to understand that you're trying to flatter them as well. What do you think is the most sensible and the most graceful way of networking?
Itself you have said that the buttering and flattering and everything, but there is some moral values and moral ethics while asking someone doing networking. So this is not like you just have a connection and added a Facebook friend and then, so but the thing is that you have to be very respectable. Like if the other person, even if your close friend can't help you, it doesn't mean he is something like negative about you and you get doing negative marketing about him. So like we have to understand that the other person positions, his intentions. If he can help, so he is welcome. If he cannot, then it's fine. You don't take it on your heart that I will kill him later on, like the way
So there's no harm in asking.
Yeah, so like no harm in, but there is a proper way. Like students mostly are on, like I would suggest students to come on the LinkedIn, all the professional, instead of doing social, because LinkedIn will tell you there is so much content on the LinkedIn which helps you to do professional networking. But in social media and TikTok and all other social media platforms, they are only doing networking in another way. So there is a platform, there is a forum to ask for. In social media, you cannot ask for such help.
Obviously, on social media, you never know, because, you know, you might get a message by a profile name Haja, and, you know, later you would know that, you know, it was Haji Sahab.
Yes.
You know, so I think that's literally a problem with social media. You certainly do not know who you're talking to. There's so many fake profiles. And just for the sake of likes and, you know, all of those comments, people have made so many fake profiles. There's so many fake profiles in place that you're like, okay, you know what, let me take a step back. You know, I'm certainly not sure about it.
So for a professional networking, which can make your network, is like you have to engage on the LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is made for the purpose that you make a professional networking. If you want to ask someone a favor, but the favor, whatever you are asking should be legitimate. Like if you force another person, even if he is a close friend, that favor me an illegal thing, so then don't challenge his moral positions or don't challenge his disgrace others.
But thank you very much, Aamir bhai, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with you, and you certainly happen to be an expert, and, you know, your advice, obviously, people out there, please make sure that, you know, it suits you. If it suits you, please make sure that you follow that. But having said that, there's one more thing which I'm going to mention over here, Haja, and it is so out of context, that, you know, for the past couple of days, I could actually smell moti over here in the studio. Have you realized that? I don't know where it comes from. I was thinking that maybe it is from this bouquet of flowers, but it's not, because it's the
artificial flowers. Yeah, they're not the fresh flowers. But having said so, it's a very wonderful smell, and obviously it adds to the aura of a very morning set in the morning, and the green and the yellows that are here. But having said so, we would like to wrap up our segment and once again say thank you to our worthy guest here. Until next time, it's a goodbye and good morning.
Have a great day.